every single letter, because if I miss a letter, it's not going to show up, and I can't fix that. I can't do it again. And if I get too much ink on it, it's going to be a big blob when I print it, and I don't want that either. So let's see. And I can't actually see whether I inked it or not. You can't tell because it's all black. So I just have to hope that I've done it right. Okay, what else do I need? Got my ink, got my words. Something else, yeah. Paper, kind of important, right? So what do we make our paper out of today? Wood, yeah, some trees, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't know how to make paper out of wood back then in Europe, in the Americas at least. So this is made out of something else, and you can feel it if you'd like, just be gentle.
Papyrus?
Not papyrus, good guess though. That's another way to make paper. Any guesses what this might be? Ooh, getting closer, not quite leather.
I said one more time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if leather's any closer than papyrus actually, but you know. This is actually fabric, this is cloth. So this one's made out of cotton, although Benjamin Franklin would mostly print with linen. That was actually made from old rags that would be clothes. That's how you could recycle clothes, you make paper out of them. We use cotton here, and we actually still have fabric paper that we use in our world today. Can you think of any fabric paper that we use? People used to use it every day. Now we don't use it quite as much maybe, but it's still pretty important.
Mask.
Ooh, that's a really good guess. But even before that, people were using it every day. Sometimes you stick it through the laundry. Paper money, so dollar bills. Dollar bills are actually paper money. That's why if you stick it through the laundry on accident and you wash it, the ink doesn't come out because it's actually fabric. You're dyeing it just like your clothes. And that's what we're going to do right now with this fabric paper. We're actually going to dye it. So you may have noticed when you're touching it, it's a little bit wet because that helps to absorb the ink. All right, so now we get the fun part. This is the pressing part of the printing press. So this is a big piece of wood called the platen that I'm going to press down onto the paper so that it connects with the ink. And the platen is smaller than my paper, so I've got to do it twice to make sure the whole piece of paper gets pressed evenly. All right. Roll it back out. And sand. All right, now I always check my prints after I do them to see if there's any problems because I want to fix it before I print again. If there's too much ink or not enough, or if there's a mistake somewhere, because I don't want to keep doing it. Because this stuff is expensive, right? We don't want to waste things. But I don't know. How do you think I did? How's it look to you?
That's really cool.
Very nice.
Yeah? Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I don't see any major problems there.
No,
So this is that Declaration of Independence. We have the text on top, and then we have the names down here, the signers. We got some folks from... Yeah, he did.
Yes.
Even on the printed one, his name is still the biggest, right? We have also our representatives from New York, right? We got New York over here, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, Lewis Morris, and then we got Pennsylvania over here. They've got a lot of names. I'm not going to read all of them. One of them is Benjamin Franklin though, right? And I want someone to read this name right here on the bottom. It says printed by Mary Catherine Goddard, yeah. So this was a woman printer that Congress asked to print this document down in Baltimore. So printing wasn't just a man's job. There were women that printed as well. Also here in Philadelphia, there was one just down the street, Miss Jane Aitken, who also printed. So I think that's pretty cool, pretty awesome that she printed the first declaration that has all the names listed on it. So pretty sweet. So now I'm not quite done though, because this paper is still wet, so I can't just, if I go put it somewhere, it's going to get kind of ruined. So, hand it over to my colleague, who can hang it up.
Oh, you guys let it dry.
So, she's going to use this heel, it's kind of like a pizza pie holder, whatever those are called, to hang it up there on the wall, and then we'll let it dry overnight, and then tomorrow morning we will collect all the ones we do today, lay them flat so that we can, well, so they'll become flat, and then we will, if they're good, we'll sell them. We'll sell them here in our store. If they're not good, then look, that's not good. Yeah, so that was a poster, or a broadside as we call it. That was just one side. That was pretty easy to do. But we can print any of this stuff here. We can print a newspaper. We could do it on both sides. If we were to do it on both sides, we would take it on, we'd have one side, one page on this one, and then immediately afterwards, we'd go take it to the other press for the other side, even while it's still wet and everything, and then hang it up. Then if it was a newspaper, once it's dry, we can fold it. Or if we were printing a book, we would actually do multiple pages on each side here. So this book, we do 4 pages each time. So 4 pages here and then 4 pages on the other side. We have to be really careful about the order. You can't just do 1, 2, 3, 4, because then when we fold it and bind it, it's not going to work. So this is actually 4, 5, 8, 1. And we have to make sure they also match on the back. On the back, we have 6, 3, 2, 7. And they have to know how it's going to fit. I don't know how it is. But so then we print it, it dries, and then we're going to take it over to the bindery. Now that is separate from the print shop. We have them connected over here, but it would be a different set of people working on it. Then they will fold it the proper way, and then cut off any extra paper here. You can kind of see the big chopper back there. Then, if it's small like this, they'll just be able to kind of be done. They'll maybe put a little binding or cover on it like this. Or if it's a bigger book, they would sew multiple ones together. So they'd have big chunks of paper, and then they would, not big, they would have sets of these things of paper, and then they actually use string. Let's kind of pull the string out. There we go. They use string to tie the pieces together, and then they can tie them all together, and then they can put a brand new cover on it, and you can make an entire book. Yeah, exactly. They didn't have staples. They didn't even have like paper clips. Like if you go over to Independence Square and like Congress Hall or other things, you'll see that they actually wrap paper with ribbon. It's like red. They call it red tape. That's where the phrase "cutting through the red tape" comes from. They didn't have staples. They didn't have binders with like the 3-ring binders like we have today. They didn't have any of that. So they used different kind of stuff.
They didn't have pins.
Yeah, they had some kind of pins, but not all the pins that we have, that's for sure. So this is our little book, our newspapers. We also have money that we can print.
Oh my.
So Benjamin Franklin was also a printer of money, and he used leaves as a pattern that he would put on his money so that he could prevent people from copying it. So now you print money, you print on a normal printer just like we do. Anybody who has a printer could print money back then. This is what it looked like. So the leaves would make it harder to copy because you can never find the exact same leaf, right? Because leaves are always different. So that's what he did for that.
Counterfeit.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Counterfeit
could print money though, like nowadays, but it's illegal.
Yeah, well, it's pretty hard, right? So they try to make it harder and harder. And so this was a way to make it harder to make it look authentic, right? Because today, right, that's why it's hard to do. You have to get all the right things, the right paper, the right stuff. It's really hard. They try and make it hard so that it's, not everybody can do it. You have to get all the right stuff and know what it is. But so those are just a few of the things that are printed here. And just like the Declaration of Independence shared the message of independence during the United States during the American Revolution when the United States became its own country. This stuff was also really important during that time because people were reading about the news of things that were happening in other places. They would hear about protests and they would get excited and maybe they'd want to help, or maybe they would get upset and they'd be like, no, we want to support the king. And this would go all around the country. People would read about those stories, and people would print books like this to try and get people to either support the revolution or to not support the revolution. This is one that helped people support it. Thomas Paine wrote it to get people to help. And so lots and lots of people read this stuff, and it did convince a lot of people to help support the revolution. So lots of those ideas, they were all traveling around because of the printing press. Now we have lots of other ways, right? We have words and books, but we also have like podcasts and internet and pictures and TV and sound and all sorts of stuff that they didn't have back then, but still all sharing those different ideas. So yeah, so any questions about any of that?